Okay, great. A lot of you are sharing. Seeing a variety of counties too. That's nice. Okay. You guys can finish up typing there in the chat. And we're going to start our marketing strategies with discussing networking. So as you know, you're your best marketing tool. So you have to kind of get yourself out there. That's the best way to get other people familiar with you and get your training opportunities. Some ways that you can do this are several meetings, committees within your community. Most counties throughout the state have a community early childhood council. It's a great place to meet childcare providers, and a lot of the early childhood councils actually provide training sometimes for the childcare providers and centers in their region. So that's a great way to network and get yourself out there and kind of promote what you can provide for trainers, where your expertise is at. Let them know that, hey, you know, I specialize in this kind of topic. If you ever need somebody to speak on that, I would be glad to. There are other advisory boards. I don't know. I know in my region, we have a lot of Friskies advisory boards. They work with, of course, all age groups of through the schools, but they do have some connections to get you out there to do some kind of community stuff too. And then we also have training centers throughout the state. And if you want to know the training centers that are in your region, you could contact your training coach and they could give you that information. The benefits of a training center are that they do a lot of marketing for you, because they usually provide a monthly or quarterly kind of training calendar to promote all of the trainings that their training center is offering. While your call is transferred to and they also offer other services like data entry and stuff like that as well. But those are great ways to get out there too and get your name out there. Also, another great way to get your name out there is through ECE TRIS, and by updating your information and keeping it updated in TRIS, people that are looking for trainings, like providers, can go in there and do a trainer search, and your name would come up on the trainer search, and they can search by area or by trainer levels and regions. So it's a great place to be. Now, a lot of the times you made that decision whether you wanted to be visible or not during the trainer search when you initially got into TRIS. And at the time right now, there is not a button for you to go in there and change that. So if you selected you didn't want to be visible for a search before, you can't just go change that yourself, although they are going to eventually be taking that and adding it to your personal profile so you can change that yourself, but that's not an option yet. So right now, you would just have to call or email TRIS and let them know, you know, if you want to become visible for a trainer search, or if you're not even sure whether you are visible or not, you can call and check that with them. So that if you wanted to be visible, you can get yourself on the trainer search. Because otherwise, when they search your name, even though you're a credentialed trainer in the system, it doesn't pop up because you've selected that you didn't want to be public. So also, getting familiar with your region, the directors or childcare centers is another great way to get yourself out there, because a lot of them will just, you know, come to a certain trainer and just want a training for their centers. And so it's great to have that connection with them so that they think of you when they need training. Are there any, and I haven't been watching the chat, I'm assuming Hans and them are.
Nikki had a question.
Okay.
So Nikki was saying that when you say training center, what are you referring to? Do you mean the regional training centers? So there's the regional training centers are through the public schools, and then there are some training agencies in our communities as well. So there's two different groups. Did you have anything? Did you want to unmute and add anything, Nikki? Do the regional training centers just use their own internal staff, or are they ever looking for external trainers?
Hi, everybody. They do sometimes if they have a specific need. And right now, a lot of their stuff, as I understand it, is focusing on special needs. So I think if there was a trainer who had real expertise in an area around special needs and young children, I would definitely let my regional training center know. I get that they're a training agency, so thanks for clarifying that for me. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Great question. And I appreciate your inside scoop.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I should have probably said training agency instead of training center. Were there any more questions, or anybody have any networking ideas that they use to get themselves out there that they want to share? Will there be an added?
Hi, this is Leslie Wilson. I just have a question, and I'm probably going to refer to the wrong thing, but I'm going to try my best to refer to the right thing.
Okay.
You mentioned something called early childhood regional, like committees or groups or something, and I've seen them, and I've been to, when we went to the training, some of those popped up in the FET training. Like you could search for your area. So my question is, how do you know when they meet, where they meet? Like how can you basically insert yourself into that space? Because it seems like it's a pretty closed space.
Okay, great. That's a great question. And they're actually, they're called community early childhood councils. And they just kind of went over, they kind of did a overhaul of the way they're organized. They used to be mostly each individual county had their own. This year they changed up a little bit, so they required that several counties combine together. They may look a little different now, but most of the time, if you can contact even just your training coach, I know that I know the most of the meetings in my area. And if that training coach didn't know, they could, all of us coaches usually, we attend a lot of them. So one of the coaches in your region would probably have that information. They do change from, usually from year to year, just because when the council reforms for the next, they usually kind of go off of a school year because a lot of the schools are involved. So they may change meeting dates from year to year or even from month to month, just depending on how your region is. But once you get kind of going, that you could be added to, most of them have an email list, and then you would get notifications of their meetings. Christine, were you wanting to pop on and say something?
Yeah, I'm just going to the Governor's Office of Early Childhood's website, and they have a community tab. And that usually has the information about the CECC. So I'm just copying that link right now, and I will post that in our chat.
Okay, there's a question in the chat that is about participants, getting email participants. Are you wanting to know how to contact like childcare centers? Is that what you're referring to?
So no, my problem is like when I want to do a training, I want to see the participant email list to, send out an email to them.
Mm-hmm.
I have to rely on someone because I've worked with 4C, as an agency, training agency, and they only allow a couple people to really do the record keeping for us.
Uh-huh.
And it just seems like a barrier that I can't look at the people that are attending my class. Because like if Brenda or someone is off that day, the one who takes care of it, I have to just sit around and wait for her. And it just seems like I should be able to get to my participant email list.
Okay. Now I don't really know how your agency would handle that. Personally, usually if you're an individual trainer, you know, of course you would know your participants and could require them to, you know, like if you were doing a face-to-face training, you could require them when they sign in to leave their email. And that way you could do follow-up afterwards with them. Or I don't know if maybe 4Cs, if there's some kind of, since I'm not with that agency, you would probably have to ask them. I don't know if there's a policy with that. Christine, would you know any other kind of way to?
No, the thought that came to my mind is, you know, when you're first making the arrangements to do that training, maybe you can just say, I require the final participant list and email for the participants 2 days before, or whatever your appropriate timeline would be, if that would kind of help you. Sometimes it's nice to be able to email them ahead of time or whatever. So maybe you can work on that kind of upfront when you're negotiating whether or not you're going to train with them and what your topic's going to be.
And then I would think if whoever in your organization is responsible for handling registration, if she's pre-registered people in ECE TRIS, then you should be able to search under training information to find that training and then see the information on who's been pre-registered into the training. That might be another thing to try.
I've tried that, Hans. That's exactly what I'm trying to talk about.
All right.
And that is the problem, is that I can't see my participant list, and I have to rely on someone. And if they're out for, you know, like a week's vacation, then I'm just kind of left there not knowing how to get a hold of them. And I didn't know if this was an issue that could be fixed. But it could be a topic for a different, you know, subject too. So I don't want to hack your training here.
Well, good question. And maybe you can work one-on-one with your training coach to kind of come up with a good solution for that.
Okay, any more questions about networking? Okay, I guess we'll move on to our next marketing strategy, which is prepared training sessions. And basically, this is kind of about having a prepared training session. So you would plan a training session. This is where you would plan a training session in advance, and you could share detailed information about your specific training session, what the topic is, and that way, let's see. You could even make a calendar to add it to. So this would be something that you would set up in advance instead of waiting for somebody to contact you. You could set it up. This is a lot of what the training agencies do. They have a prepared calendar that is sent out so that when people go to search trainings, they're ready and they're available. The important thing about having a prepared training session is having a good title, having a good description, and also being specific with your core content subject areas. Because if they use trainer search, those are a lot of the ways that providers are going to search for a trainer or training in the TRIS system. So titles are very important for the reason that they need to be very clear and concise, and they can be descriptive. So if you were to use a title that included your age group, it might be something like math and preschoolers. Or if you were to use your target audience in the title, you might say, what is the toddler throwing toys? Basic developmental milestones for new staff. So when they went to search, I'm a new staff, I need training for new staff, that would be something that would pop up. Or using specific topics or curriculums or whatever your training is going to be about. If you wanted to do something about how to use ASQs with infants. So that way they know if they're looking for a training for an ASQ, when they search that, it comes up. Also, when you write a description, it really needs to be detailed. So in your description, you would include if you had any goals or objectives so that they kind of know what they're going to be getting out of the training. If you have any key info, if you did not include your age group within your training title, it's a good idea to include it in your description so that, you know, I'm not an after school age person coming to an infant and toddler class. So when they search in ECE-TRIS as well, they also search sometimes for core content subject areas. And this has become more important because STARS has specific core content subject areas that are required for providers to have in certain core content areas to get a higher rating. So, and I don't know if you've had a chance to check your emails today, but they just actually came out with a new requirement for ECE-TRIS for us trainers, that you will not be able to just select, okay, you know, here's my 3-hour training and it's core content subject area 4 and 6. Well, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to say 1 hour of my 3-hour training is core content subject 4 and the other 2 hours are core content subject 6. You're going to actually have to divide it out now, and you're going to be limited on how many core content subject areas that you can select. So just keep that in mind when you go to enter your stuff now, that that's going to be something that's a little bit different in ECE-TRIS now.
And that email did just hot off the press, went out this afternoon. So if you haven't read through it yet, definitely read it and don't delete that email. I know we're bombarded right now with lots of information, but that's an important one.
Right. So, and there's a couple other changes. I think the rest of them had a lot to do with providers, but that was one of the important ones that I thought I would share tonight, since it kind of went along with what we were talking about. So, I want to talk about on the next bullet, the Benefind portal. And that is a way to locate, when we were talking earlier about networking, and I was suggesting that you get familiar with directors and centers in your region so that you can get your name out there. This is a way to, if you don't know all of the centers in your region or how to get in contact with them, and you don't want to have to just look everything up, there is a lovely website. It is called Benefind. And I'm going to share my screen real quick and show you the website. And it is benefind.ky.gov. I think Christine put the link in the chat. And this allows you to find the childcare providers that are in your area. You just go scroll down and it says childcare providers. You click on this, childcare providers. And then when it comes up, there's a nice little spot right here for you to put an address or your city or your zip code. And once you do that, it will show you all of the childcare providers within your area. I'll just do kind of close to me real quick. And then it has their contact information. So you would be able to have it all right here at your little fingertips, and you could reach out to providers and kind of let them know, hey, I'm a new trainer. If you ever need anything, you know, here's my stuff. Maybe some of them will actually provide you with an email. They might be able to do that too. And so then that would be a way for you to have a way to contact them if you wanted to advertise any trainings that you were going to have. Okay, so that was pretty easy.
That's right, April, you're killing it.
So, okay. And then, I stopped sharing. So then again, there is the ECE-TRIS calendar. It is very underutilized, meaning we need to use it more. So if you have a pre-planned session, please add it to the TRIS calendar so that when providers go in to search, they see your training. That's a great way for them to find you. Also, like I said, there's training agencies. They have a calendar. You can make it a share with your training coaches if you have something you're offering, and training, like networking at early childhood councils is a great way to get your stuff out there. I've even had people in my region make their own little personal training calendar when they're there are people that regularly train, and they send those out to their providers in the area that they train in every month or quarterly or however often they provide. Yes.
Nikki's also added another good comment saying that on the Benefine site, you can also download a list of providers, and that has
Okay.
lots of information.
Great, thank you.
Becky, we do have a current training agency list. It is actually on the Child Care Aware website, and it is under the professional development tab. I will go ahead and look for that now, and I'll copy that link for you.
And just so you all know, all the great questions and answers that are popping up in the chat, those are going to be pulled from the chat and put in the discussion board when we put all this content online in that Trainer Connections online community. So if you miss something, don't sweat it. It's going to end up online later. So just wanted to let you know.
Great. Great questions. Thank you. Okay. So does anybody have anything that they would like to add about having prepared training sessions?
Oh, something I thought of. If you're going to do a prepared training session, if it's not understood, you're going to need to make sure you have a location to hold that training.
Yes, and if you don't know of any training coaches, they don't we can't set that up for you, but we can give you ideas of places that allow or other places that other trainers use. So feel free to contact any of your training coaches as well for some ideas. A lot of places will allow you to use their venues. Okay. Any more questions before we move on? Okay, I'll shut up for a little bit and let Hans take it away.
All right, thanks, April. And when I said you were killing it, I meant you were doing fantastic.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I want to be clear on that. That was my vernacular. All right. So I've got the next two sections of our workshop tonight. And the first one is training to large audiences at conferences. So doing this kind of thing can get you in front of larger audiences that are at early childhood professional conferences or other professional conferences. And some of them pay, some of them don't, but given the opportunities that come to you from presenting at a conference or being at a conference, it can really have value for you to do something that may not get you some immediate money. For instance, there's all kinds of formal and informal networking you can do with people that are going to be there before and after your training. During the exhibit hall time, if you spend some time at the training, other than your training time, you'll get to run into people and have conversations with them. So that can be a really helpful part of presenting at a conference, and get your name out there in front of large groups of people at a time, and they're pulled away from their work in that private conference bubble where they're not having to think about the day-to-day, and they might see some ways to connect with you for some future services. So at this point, we'd like to see if anybody could share some of their own training at professional conference ideas or questions, or some of the conferences we have in our area that might be likely to be used by our trainers. Let's hear from you guys right now.
By the way, Hans, you're not sharing your screen. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
It's not sharing at all. All right, let's see here.
Your video's not on, Hans. You gotta turn your video on.
We're back.
All right. Thanks everybody for the technical support. It takes a village, right? Especially when I'm involved. Okay. So welcome back to the beginning of our workshop. Let's see here. Advance. Conferences, training at large audiences. All right, there's all the bullet points I did.
No, it's not on there yet.
Oh, there's a little delay. Kind of
I've-
like, what do we got now?
I've got conferences on my screen.
I see conferences as well.
I don't see you.
I see his picture.
Oh, wow,
Right.
okay.
I don't see him at all.
All right.
it.
Yeah, I see you.
I got you.
All right, so I just started my video, but what you should be seeing now is a PowerPoint slide that says conferences trained to large audiences.
No.
Most of the people in the chat are saying yes, that's what they see.
Okay, all right, so we'll keep going here. All right, I've created a lot of space for folks to share about conferences and then filled it with my technical difficulties. That's a good way to roll. All right, let me stand back a little bit more and see if any of you guys presented at conferences before, anything you would share that might be helpful for trainers that haven't done it before or are looking to do this thing more.
And you're welcome to unmute yourself or type in the chat box if you'd like to share, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Hi, this is Nikki. One of the things that I tend to do, and I'll definitely do this when I'm outside of the state, but sometimes even inside, is I'll do kind of a Traino bio sketch that's just got a little bit about me, maybe a picture and a list of topics or session titles. And with information, if you're interested in one or more of these trainings, here's the contact information, and then just include that in my handout. And one of the things about Kentucky, you know, we're surrounded by 7 states, so it's pretty easy to get to other state conferences, and that's a really good source.
Good tips.
I agree, Nikki. This is Becky. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have done like a infant toddler conference and the early childhood conference and several, the school age conference when it was active. And just being present at the session and engaging with the participants gets your name out there. If you're personable and are interested in your participants, then they will be interested in you. And word of mouth is everything.
Great tips.
And April and Christine, I can't see the chat at all. So if you guys can pull anything out of there, I don't want to go on before somebody brings up a relevant point in the chat.
Well, the question was just asked if they were allowed to train in the surrounding states. And I think that's a requirement, different requirements for every state, if I'm correct, right, Christine?
Yeah, so your Kentucky trainer's credential is Kentucky specific. It does not transfer out of state. But if someone's inviting you or you've put in a request for a proposal and it's been accepted, then it's kind of on that entity to go ahead and get your clock hours approved through their state channels. You know, that would not be up to you. So we're not going to say no, because you have a Kentucky credential, you can't train anyplace else. But like the clock hours would not automatically be approved if you stepped across the state line.
And I do know that Indiana doesn't have like anything like the trainer's credential like we have here. And people just, any Indiana folks, please correct me here. This is my secondhand knowledge from my wife, that they can just get their training however they choose. And there's no credentialing, training approval, anything like that that goes on over there. Any Hoosiers out there? Crickets, Hoosiers, okay.
And
Somebody
things
said
are
you're right.
changing. Things are changing. So I think, you know, with the new changes with CCDF over the past few years, I think there has been an emphasis placed on professional development. So I do know states are looking at how trainers are certified or credentialed or whatever word you want to use.
You had a few people agree with you, Hans, about Indiana, so.
Thank goodness. Thanks, April. If I can't see my praise, I don't know what to do. But yeah, I think that just points to, as a professional trainer, for you to ask that of whoever's engaging with you to do work. That's a really good thing to do, whether if it's in Kentucky or out of Kentucky. You always ask that question of the folks that are there when you're engaging in that work. So, all right. Unless there's anything else, I'm going to move on to the next slide. April, Christine, anything popping up?
We had a comment that just said something about conferences will provide you with audio and video equipment. Usually, if you you don't always have to provide your own. So just be mindful of when you go to a conference. You can usually ask or tell them what kind of equipment you need and confirm if they've got what you need. So always good to have a backup though if plan A doesn't always work sometimes.
Yep, good point. All right, so now we have access to some special information for you all that connects to training at conferences. I think I went one slide too far. There it is. Okay, we have received information from the Community Action Council of Lexington that's hosting an event on July 27th through 31st. It's their Community Action Council pre-service conference. They've asked for proposals on innovative practical experiences, applied recommended practices, current info for serving children ages 0 to 5 and their families. This is going to be a paying conference. Their submission deadline is June 1st, 2020. So we got about a month to get that in. I have a copy of their complete 4-page call for proposal document. So if you are interested in receiving this, so you can review it and decide if you want to submit a proposal, they're looking for 90-minute or 180-minute sessions. Just put your name and email address into the chat, and you will get an email that has a copy of their call for proposal document. So I wanted you all to be aware of that. Special news for you guys that chose to attend. And I'll leave that up for just a minute more. And I know Christine has a cool idea that we saw for a minute before I got to this slide.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of what Nikki was talking about that she does at her conference. So when I went to NACCE this past fall, one of the presenters that I saw was this Susan McDonald, and she had this little index card, pre-printed index card on all of the tables. And she encouraged, anybody who wanted to fill it out could fill it out. And then, obviously she was collecting information so that she could reach back out. The topics that she was interested in and connected to, and she could either present at or was recruiting people to be involved in different projects were listed on the bottom half of it. And then towards the end of the session, she said, anyone who turns these little cards in, I'll pull a couple door prize winners. So she collected information from the audience so that they could follow up. So Susan could follow up with whomever was interested, and she motivated them by offering a door prize. And I mean, that would be a super, super low cost way to market yourself, because it's just a piece of paper and you already have the people in the room. And if they were like, wow, that was a really good presentation, I would love to see her again, or we should bring her to our, Kentucky conference. So that's just a very, very low cost method if you might want to use something along those lines.
And it gives you names and email addresses you can put on a distribution list for future reach out movements you do by email as a trainer. And
I did enter, and she did follow up with me. So it works. And I didn't win the door prize, sadly, but that's all right.
Cool. Anybody else have any really cool things they saw a trainer do at a conference that took advantage of the conference setting? All right, seems like the presenting at conferences area has run its course. All right, so we'll move on to the next section, which talks about using the internet and social media to advance your interests online. So if you can cultivate a social presence on the internet, that will help you building your business as a trainer. You want to take advantage of platforms that you know how to use, whether it's emails and websites, or if you're more fluent in Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn and those other networking sites like that. Those have a number of functions that can help you host online content and get that out to people, allow people to connect with you there, and build up just a connection network through that. Let's see, what else did I want to say about this? Yeah. So something I wanted to talk about, the final bullet there is a trainer, Paul Wesselman. He's also known as the Ripples guy, who's been at the Trainers Institute the last 2 years. And he has really got very far advanced and wide-reaching use of the internet and social media to create a brand and connect with trainers and engage on all sorts of ways. So April is sharing her screen now to show you his website. If you Googled Paul Wesselman, the Ripples guy, this is going to come up. And so he has ways to reach him about getting work with him. He has his bio information there, contact information for himself. And then at the both at the top and the top left there, you see the little bird for Twitter, F for Facebook, P for Pinterest. I thought that was Instagram, but then I clicked on it. It's LinkedIn. So I learned something today looking at that. And there's YouTube. He has a YouTube channel as well. So he has great presences. And April, I don't know, did you get those tabs? There we go. So see how some of those look, because he's got his brand, his picture, his color scheme that's consistent throughout, that really makes an impact and allows people to connect and see that association throughout all of those platforms. So it can show you the power of developing some kind of logo or consistent imaging that you can use that will help with making a brand that makes it memorable in people's minds and hearts about what you do. So he does this weekly email called The Ripples, and he sends it out to everybody. You register for it, and it provides some inspiration, things to think about, and then links to little bits of information. He gives away some free stuff that he has that you can use as a trainer, and takes every single opportunity he can to reach out and make a meaningful connection with trainers through content-based information. And so he's so masterful at this. I wanted to put him there, not to try to endorse any certain trainer for you to hire and do anything, but just to see what he's crafted for himself online and to look at, okay, all this stuff is wonderful. I'm nowhere near this. Maybe there's something you can say, oh, an email monthly newsletter. I could do something like that, and take it and kind of make it your own. But he's really shown how it can go across all these platforms and making meaningful connections with people that shows not only his content knowledge, but also his ability to connect and make connections and in a meaningful way with people. So that's one of his strengths there. All right, so that was there's the Facebook. What all have we seen, April? I kind of lost track of what's up here. Did we see YouTube yet?
I didn't go. Well,
okay.
I didn't go there because like you can click his YouTube videos are also associated with all of their pages and his website. So
I think they call that synergy, don't they, in the corporate world, when things synergize across platforms? Yeah.
And he has a Pinterest page too, which I thought was pretty cool, but I haven't got it pulled up on here.
Okay. All right. So I think Christine, you had some interactions with Paul that you were going to try to see if they would come through on the video. And you're muted. Let's see.
Okay,
All right,
sorry. As you know, we've had Paul at the Trainers Institute the past couple of years. And so the first year after he was always like taking selfies and taking all kinds of pictures at the actual event, which I thought, oh gosh, he's like really having a good time and enjoying it. But there was a method to his madness, because just days after the Institute, he sent me this, and it's in like a little magnetic sleeve. Do you know what I'm talking about? Little plastic sleeve with magnets on the back, like a little frame. And he just like did a little collage of the pictures that he took with us and did a little thank you message. And I have it up on in my office, and it just kind of reminds me of how much fun we had at that Institute. So that was like after year number 1. And then after year number 2, he sent a little, again, sometimes a presenter will say, oh, thank you for inviting me. I had a great time. Your audience was awesome, blah, 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 right? But he actually sent a little pond, because his whole like message is the, you know, the ripple effect that you have. And in this little pond, and he even told me this sweet story about the lady who made the pond, he gave me like little ripple messages. And these are all his top 100 ripple messages. And he said that, you know, whenever you just kind of need a little boost, you go fishing in the pond and you, you know, get out a message of encouragement. And so this, again, it just kind of is visible in my office, and it just kind of makes me remember and just feel his positive energy. And I mean, again, it's good marketing. It has his brand all over it. And then, you know, if you were to send, as a trainer, if you were to send out kind of a, I don't know, a really nice thank you with some sort of gimmick, then that might encourage your audience to reach out to you again to do another session. So I just kind of wanted to share those with you, because I've shared them with our team, but I don't, and you were all part of that experience too at Trainers Institute that made it so special. So I don't know, so you can maybe come up with a creative spin on a thank you for inviting me to present, and hopefully it will be fruitful for you. Does anybody do thank yous of any sort? Maybe you'll think about it now. All right, thank you.
All righty. Appreciate that, Christine. I'm going to try to get our slide back up here. There we go. All right, so would love to open the floor here and hear more from you all, either in the chat or in the, unmute your mic and share out with us things that you do on using social media and the internet, ideas or questions you would have about that. We can tap into the expertise that's here with us tonight and hopefully get a good answer for you.
One thing that my agency does, I'm with 4C, and like when I'm doing a loose parts training, I will have the participants go ahead and get their phone out right then and there, and direct them to the 4C Pinterest page, and that has a lot of loose parts and environments, and I go ahead and have them do that during class. And that way they can get notifications from us. So we're always kind of like on their news feed that way.
So with the phones, that's a whole game changer now, where people can access social media in a training. So that's a great way to capture interest on content you're doing right then and there, have stuff available on those social media platforms. People will be very likely to click it and register. And then that gives you another like, follow, feed, or email address that can be used for future contact. Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, if I can get their phones out and get my agency's name in their phone somehow, I feel like I have accomplished a training, you know, to get them to come back and to get them to like our Instagram or whatever kind of social media that we're putting out right then and there. But Pinterest, you know, childcare providers love Pinterest, and go ahead and feed into that. Go ahead and invite them, start your own web page, and have them look at what you're interested in, because that will get a following of certain like-minded people with you.
And, you know, we just wrapped up an FET course, so I've got transfer of learning on the brain. And these are also great platforms to use to keep your groups of participants connected after the training. You can set up private groups in these platforms and have people drop in videos or share pictures of what they've done back in the classroom to use the information from your training to change their behavior and see a positive impact on kids and families. And that can provide such more of a social learning experience afterwards to see, oh, the lady that sat next to me at the table did this really great thing in the science area. I think I could do that too. And I think this really provides us with many opportunities that weren't available to trainers just 10, 15 years ago.
We also have info cards, and the info cards are just all of our links to websites, you know, or to social media. Like we'll have our Twitter handle, our Facebook, everything all on one card, and we can slip that into folders or just put them out for people to take. So we go through those quite a bit. You know, I like to hand them out because even if it falls on the ground, people still see it, you know, on the ground and might pick it up. So I'm all about getting the name out there any way we can.
Right, business cards taking on a whole new form, getting bigger and electronic and all that good stuff. All right, thanks a lot.
Okay, I just have to share Carrie's idea because that is so clever. She says that she gives her attendees a Facebook 5, which is a planned time to check emails, Facebook, Snapchats, and then cleverly she gives her stuff at the end to let them know that she's actually tech savvy as well. So that's really good. I like the Facebook 5. I might have to steal that.
I always plug it, Christine, and you guys like Facebook 5. You can Snapchat. We'll do a selfie. You can swipe left, swipe right. On the lingo so that the younger kiddos in the audience know that I'm TikTok and all that good stuff, that I'm cool and aware. And so that keeps me relevant. And then I also go back to things like checking your text and your email in case those staunch, dedicated workers are in the crowd who are like, this is too much fun. And so I let them have a time to check the emails.
That's really, really responsive to your audience. And yeah, that helps you connect with them. And that's awesome. I love it.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for this really good sharing, y'all. I am learning a lot myself. Okay, now we want to share with you, before we get into our closing time, some information about the Trainers Institute. So there's been some information how we shifted it to a virtual format, and we're offering, as you see on the slide there, 5 groups of trainings. 2 and 4 are connected, and then entry number 5 also has 2 components as well. And then I just remembered, Christine, would you please, Miss Queen of Registration and stuff, let people know about this better than I could?
Well, yeah, so sadly we had to cancel our face-to-face, but we have a number of presenters that were willing to do a virtual format. Each of these sessions are 2 clock hours. Some of them may be 2 hours virtually, all of us together. And then Nikki, for instance, has a little bit of a different approach. She wanted to use a blended learning approach. Nikki, are you still on? Did you want to just give a little elevator pitch for your sessions?
Sure. I'm going to send it. You guys are going to send out a pre-assignment that's going to kind of introduce the content. And then we're really going to focus on application and how we could use the ideas during the webinar piece. And the 2 sessions are connected, but they could be taken individually. And they're very practically oriented.
So the first one, registration actually closes tomorrow. So if you're interested in the first one, and what is the primary topic of the first one, Nikki? I'm sorry, that's
the first one is called, we're really going to take a look at a technique, a category of strategies called total participation techniques. And it's designed, little strategies you can incorporate into training that you can actually engage all your participants at the same time. And they're designed to get your participants to think more deeply about the topic that you're teaching about. That's the first one.
Great. So if that sounds of interest to you, I know I'm already signed up. So if that sounds of interest to you, definitely sign up tonight or tomorrow so that we can be sure to get that pre-assignment out to you in a timely manner and give you enough time to work on that. So there's a variety of topics. They're all spread out. One is in the evening, some are in the morning, some are in the afternoon. We know our worlds are all turned upside down right now. So hopefully you can join us for one of those particular options. And we also just launched 2 new Beyond Fundamentals that are available online. So if you would prefer to take one of those are available. One is on developing online content and the other is using polling in your training. So those are also some new areas for adult learning hours. These trainer connections don't offer the adult learning hours. This is more of just kind of social learning and a social community, and we're grateful that you're all here kind of sharing your favorite tips, but the Trainers Institute at-home sessions will offer. We just received a question in the chat, so I just wanted to clarify that.
And someone asked for the link to the registration page for the Institute. Christine,
Okay,
do you have
I will
that
get
handy?
to that.
Outstanding. All right. Let's see. Next up.
There was a comment in the chat that somebody had trouble with the website today when they were trying to register. I'm not really sure what that was about, Monica. You might want to just try again. I know the first time I tried to do it, of course, it was the very first day that it went out. Maybe it was having a little glitch too.
Yeah, it wasn't letting me actually check out. I registered for everything.
All right, she's breaking up a little bit there. I know usually on HDI registration stuff, there's if you have a problem, email lsv.registration. Christine, is there something like that on the registration page?
Yeah, or Brandon Canada. I'm going to put his email in here too.
There we go. He loves us. We get him lots of traffic. Thanks for that question, Monica. Sorry your audio was cutting out, but I wanted to make sure we got you some information on that.
There was a question about Nikki's classes, if they were different. If you saw 2 classes by Nikki, yes, they're 2 different classes.
April, this is Karen. I saw a question here about whether or not these count towards other adult hours, and I have, I know one FETer on here, so you might want to go over that. Okay. If they are not yet credentialed.
Yes, if you are an FET participant or not and not yet credentialed, if you are welcome, of course, to take the courses at the Trainers Institute, because you know, knowledge is power right there. But they do not count towards your renewal hours until you are credentialed. So if you don't have a credential yet, you're welcome to still take the classes. But if you get your credential a week after the classes, then that's when you'll start your 3 years of time to get your hours that you need for a renewal.
All right, thanks, April.
Thanks, Karen.
And yeah, that's a good wrinkle to add to our discussion on this. Okay, for those of you that might be in need of early childhood hours for credential renewal, we do have awareness of 2 free online training options that have come through. There's a KET. Their early childhood page has some limited offerings that will, they register now up to June, and then you have to finish them by the end of June. But there's a whole bunch of independent study ones, different things like that. And there's going to be a link in the chat that takes you to their page that shows you where that is. And again, if you miss it in the chat, it will appear in the gathering of this information in the Trainer Connections online community. And the other thing, Child Care Aware is rolling out 1 free online training on their site every week for the next 4 weeks. If you will follow that at CCAwareKY on social media, you'll get these alerts through those platforms. The first one that's up is called Help, How Do I Teach My Children Self-Regulation? So those are two options we wanted to get in front of you tonight. We're down to the last few minutes. So there's anybody's got some final questions or ideas they wanted to share, this would be the time to do that. Would also like you to think about stuff we've discussed tonight in these 4 different areas. And if you could share in the chat your name and any action steps that you think you might take related to marketing based on information you've gained here tonight. We'd like to see that in the chat room, as well as letting us know, would you be interested if we were to offer some windows of time where training coaches were available through this Zoom platform to discuss any of these action steps you're trying to take? And so to see if this offering might be something of value to you, if it's something we can throw out there and see if you would use it and find that to be helpful. Because that's something we tried out with this FET online we did this last time, and we want to try it in this environment as well. So get your action steps in the chat, and whether or not you might be interested in some not participating. So it would be like 2 hours of time on the internet. You could drop in, spend 5 minutes there, get out of there. You could do it at the beginning, do it at the end, but we'd have coaches kind of sitting there doing other work. If somebody pops in the room, then they get some one-on-one or two-on-one help on whatever they're working on with their marketing strategy. So share with us about that. And then there's the link that shows you where you can sign up for the quote course that's called the Trainer Connections Online Community. Right now, it just has the information from our March 25th session, but at some point tomorrow, I'm hoping it's gonna have everything from tonight on there as well. So that should be appearing in the chat. And,
yes, and Hans, we do have a couple of ideas. So Faye said that she would definitely like to, she would definitely like to meet with training coaches. It sounds like there's a few people that were interested in that. And she wants to kind of figure out a thank you gift idea.
Cool.
Monica is wanting to target some stronger social media presence and would like a little bit of help with that. And I think there were probably a couple of other messages that I missed.
Melanie said that she would also like to do some social media sources, and she's going to work on getting a brand solidified for herself.
Outstanding. And, you know, if we do get some of these office hours set up and you aren't able to attend, anything you would want to share there, you are more than welcome to engage with your training coach directly with about just through email or a phone call as well. So just know that that is a tool you have that you can use. But this is fantastic. I'm excited about this stuff. All right, so if there's nothing new in the ideas section to share, I'm going to jump into my gratitude as we fade on out of here. So first of all, thank you to everybody who made it tonight. This has been a wonderful session. I've been so pleased to see the turnout and all the good ideas and information that's been shared here. And I need to thank my co-hosts, April Brown and Christine Hausman, for helping me rock and roll up here today. I think we did a sweet job. And I have to thank Dawn Griffin, the training coach from Northern Bluegrass, because we pulled her groupings and PowerPoint and content to serve as the backbone and foundation of this. So thanks everybody for turning out. We're just at about the hour. So get your last things in the chat there before we download that and pull the information from it. And have a wonderful evening and a nice week, and stay safe, stay healthy, and au revoir.
Thank you, everyone. There's lots of stuff going on in this chat. If there was a question that we didn't address, feel free to unmute yourself and we can help you with that.